Mark woke up as he did every day, feeling the weight of another week ahead. The days dragged on between meetings and an endless pile of tasks, which he carried out mechanically. Time seemed to slip through his fingers, and he found himself increasingly distant from family and friends whom he barely spoke to anymore. It wasn't a bad life, but it wasn't the one he had imagined. As he looked at the clock, already feeling tired before the day had even begun, something stirred within him. Perhaps it was the silence of the house or the urge to escape the routine, even if just for a few minutes, but he decided to step outside. Without telling anyone, he put on a jacket, grabbed an old pair of sneakers, and opening the door, was greeted by the cool morning breeze. His still sleepy body seemed to resist, but something deep inside pushed him forward. He walked toward a little-used trail, where he had heard there was a viewpoint. With no expectations, he followed the path between trees and gentle slopes. With each step, the surrounding silence seemed to ease the constant pressure he felt. He realized that maybe he was there to escape more than just work. After a few minutes of walking, the sun began to rise over the horizon, casting orange tones across the sky. When he finally reached the top, he took a deep breath and felt the vastness before him. The sunrise seemed almost like a relief, a promise of peace. That brief moment felt like exactly what he needed, and without realizing it, he began wishing it would last longer. The orange glow spread across the sky, transforming the horizon into a spectacle of light and color. Mark stood there motionless, watching the sunrise as if it were the first time he truly saw this scene. Each ray seemed to bring a piece of calm he had never known, and for the first time in a long time, he felt at peace. As the sun rose slowly, a stillness enveloped him, pushing away the usual worries. He realized he wasn't thinking about work or the pending tasks waiting for him. There was no pressure or demands, only the present moment. It was strange, almost uncomfortable, but also profoundly liberating. Mark closed his eyes, allowing the soft warmth of the sun to touch his face. In the silence of the mountain, he took a deep breath, letting the fresh air fill his lungs and dissipate some of the weight he carried. He didn't know how long he stayed there, but something inside him understood that he needed to return. Still, the thought of making that walk again felt like a silent promise. There was something about that sunrise that he wanted to explore once more, something that might restore the lightness and balance he had lost. As he descended the trail, a certainty grew within him. That morning would not be the last time he climbed to watch the sunrise, waiting to see if she would acknowledge him. The woman turned slightly, sensing his presence, and offered him a warm smile that instantly made him feel welcome. "Beautiful, isn't it?" she said, gesturing toward the horizon where the first hints of dawn were beginning to glow. Marcos nodded, unable to find his voice. He stepped closer, positioning himself beside her at the edge of the viewpoint. Together, they watched as the sky transformed, the oranges and pinks merging in a breathtaking display. "It feels like every day is a little different, doesn't it?" she continued, her voice calm and soothing. "Each sunrise carries its own story." He finally found the words. "It does. I came here yesterday for the first time, and I felt different, lighter somehow." The woman turned to him, her eyes sparkling with understanding. "It's amazing what a little time in nature can do for the soul. We often get so caught up in our lives that we forget to pause and breathe. This place has a way of reminding us what truly matters." Marcos absorbed her words, feeling as if they were meant for him. He had been rushing through life, ticking off tasks and obligations, without taking a moment to reflect. He realized how much he craved this connection, not just to nature, but to himself. "Do you come here often?" he asked, curious. "Whenever I can," she replied. "It's my sanctuary. I found that each visit brings new insights, new perspectives. Sometimes I even bring my sketchbook to capture the beauty." "Do you draw?" he asked, intrigued. "Yes, but it's not just about the art. It's about the process. The act of creation helps me find clarity." "What about you? What brings you here?" "I'm not sure yet," he admitted, looking out at the horizon. "I just felt the need to escape for a moment. The woman smiled knowingly. Sometimes that's all it takes, a single moment of clarity to spark change. As they stood together, watching the sun fully rise, Mark felt a deep sense of connection. Perhaps this new friendship would guide him further along the path of rediscovery. The morning air filled with the scent of blooming flowers, and for the first time in a long time, he felt the stirrings of hope for the days ahead. Mark stood still for a moment, admiring the woman who, absorbed in the spectacle of nature, seemed unaware of his presence. The tranquility she radiated intrigued him. Gathering his courage, he made a subtle gesture to introduce himself. "Hi, I'm Mark. I come here to watch the sunrise." She turned slowly, her eyes sparkling with a serene wisdom. "Nice to meet you, Mark. I'm Clara. I'm also a fan of the sun. There's something magical about this moment, isn't there?" Mark nodded, feeling a bit out of place but also intrigued by this unexpected interaction. They stood in silence for a few moments, allowing the beauty of the landscape to envelop them. When Clara began to speak again, her soft, melodic voice filled the space. "The sunrise is a daily reminder that there's always a new opportunity, don't you think?" Mark smiled, but his mind began to stir. A new opportunity felt like such a distant concept from his reality. He thought of the sleepless nights, the pressures of work, and the suffocating routine that imprisoned him. At that moment, he felt torn. Part of him wanted to believe Clara's words, but another part felt skeptical. "Sometimes I feel like I'm stuck in a never-ending cycle," he confessed, his eyes fixed on the horizon. "Responsibilities never seem to end, and I barely have time for myself." Clara watched him closely. "I understand. Life can seem like a never-ending routine, but you have the power to change that. It's in the small decisions that we find freedom." Her words resonated within him, but they also stirred resistance. The idea of making significant changes in his life scared him. He had become so accustomed to living on autopilot that the thought of taking control felt more like a challenge than an opportunity. "Don't you think it's easier said than done?" Mark replied, a bit defensively. Clara smiled, as if she had anticipated that argument before he even voiced it. "It might be, but every step counts. The walk we're taking now is a choice. What matters is that you're willing to take the next step." Mark took a deep breath, battling the resistance rising within him. He wasn't ready to change his life, but at the same time, something about their conversation intrigued him. What had happened if he decided, even for a moment, to open himself to new possibilities? He looked at Clara and saw a reflection of what he could be, a lighter, more conscious life. Deep down, Mark knew that this morning walk was becoming more than just a stroll. It was an ajar door to something he could barely comprehend. And as the sun continued to rise, illuminating his reflections, he allowed himself to feel a spark of hope. The conversation flowed naturally between Mark and Clara, as if they had known each other for much longer than their brief exchanges of words. As the sun rose, painting the sky in golden hues, Clara began to share a bit of her own story. "A few years ago, I was as lost as you seem to be now," she started, her gaze distant, as if recalling those difficult times. "I worked in an office, surrounded by numbers and deadlines, and I felt like a shadow of myself. One day, after a long meeting, I decided I needed to change." Mark listened attentively, feeling a growing connection with this woman who seemed to have traveled a path similar to his. "That's when I started walking every morning, just like you. At first, it was just a way to escape the routine, but soon I realized that these moments helped clear my mind and reflect on what I really wanted." "And what did you discover?" Mark asked, intrigued. Clara smiled, as if she were recalling a well-kept secret. "I discovered that what I truly wanted was to live more authentically, in tune with myself and the world around me. I learned to listen to my heart and follow my own path, rather than being swept along by others' expectations." Mark reflected on this. He had always been the person who cared about pleasing others, from his parents to his bosses. The idea of prioritizing his own needs was daunting, but also fascinating. "Weren't you scared?" he asked, vulnerability seeping into his voice. "What if things hadn't worked out?" Clara looked into his eyes, her gaze penetrating yet warm. Of course I was scared, Mark. But fear doesn't have to be an obstacle. It can be a sign that you're about to do something significant. Instead of letting fear paralyze me, I chose to use it as fuel. He felt a wave of emotion wash over him at her words. There was a truth resonating in them that he couldn't ignore. Could fear be a motivation instead of a barrier? And you succeeded, then? He asked, a hint of hope in his voice. Did you find your way? Clara nodded, a spark in her eyes. Yes, and I'm still discovering. The journey never ends, and each day is a new opportunity for learning. The important thing is to allow yourself to follow your instincts and intuition. Mark allowed himself to ponder what that intuition might be. What did he truly want? And as Clara spoke, he found himself reflecting not just on what was lost, but also on what could still be found. Do you have any tips for someone just starting out? He asked, curious. Yes, start slow. Allow yourself to make small changes, and don't worry about being perfect. Life is made of experiences, and every step counts, Clara replied, with a tone of wisdom that her experiences had given her. The conversation continued, and as they delved deeper into their reflections, Mark felt that he was allowing himself to dream again. The idea of a fuller, more authentic, and meaningful life didn't seem so distant. In fact, it was beginning to feel possible. And so, as the sun climbed higher in the sky, Mark and Clara shared not only their stories, but also the promise that new beginnings were always possible, even in the most challenging circumstances. With the music still resonating in his mind, Marcos woke up to another morning of bright sunshine. He felt different, as if every chord played in his guitar class had unleashed a current of positive energy within him. His morning walks had become more than a ritual. They were now an opportunity to reflect on his experiences and aspirations. As he prepared to head out, he thought about Clara and the deep conversations they had. The idea that the horizon represented infinite possibilities still echoed in his mind. The horizon was no longer a fixed and unreachable line, but rather a blank canvas ready to be filled with new experiences. Stepping outside, the fresh morning air enveloped him, and the city was still asleep under the soft light of dawn. He decided to take a new route, one he had never explored before, driven by the feeling that each step could lead him to a new understanding of himself and the world. Marcos walked through the quiet streets, noticing details that had previously gone unnoticed. The flowers in the gardens, the birds singing in the trees, and the gentle murmur of a nearby stream brought a sense of peace. He began to realize that every element around him contributed to the beauty of the horizon stretching before him. During his walk, Marcos reflected on the conversation he had with Clara about the interpretation of the horizon. He felt that, just like the landscape around him, his life was a collection of moments and choices interconnected with each other. He thought about his dreams, the limitations that had held him back from achieving them, and more importantly, the courage he was starting to cultivate. In a moment of clarity, he realized that the horizon was not just a symbol of what he wanted to achieve, but also of what he had already accomplished. Every step taken, every dream listed, every chord learned on the guitar contributed to the construction of his own story. The horizon was, therefore, a living metaphor for his personal growth. As he walked, he came across a park he had never noticed before. The open space, filled with leafy trees and colorful flowers, seemed an invitation for him to sit down and reflect. Marcos found a bench under a tree and settled in, allowing the environment to envelop his senses. He closed his eyes for a moment, breathing deeply and appreciating the peace that surrounded him. Sitting there, he decided it was time to explore more deeply the meaning of his dreams. He took out his notebook, which had become his constant companion, and began to write about his reflections. What did he really want from the horizon? What was he willing to do to get there? As he wrote, the words flowed easily. The horizon is an invitation to adventure. It is the promise that the unknown can become something wonderful. Every step taken toward it allows me to discover who I am and what I am capable of. Marcos felt excited by this new perspective. He was not only dreaming, but also committing to act. The horizon was no longer just a destination, but a continuous journey of self-discovery. After a few minutes, he noticed that the sun was higher in the sky and decided it was time to head back. But now the walk back home didn't seem like a chore. It was an opportunity to reflect on everything he had learned. Each step took him closer not only to home but also to his true essence. The idea that the horizon was a living promise, full of possibilities, became a fundamental belief for Marcos. He was determined not to let the limitations of the past prevent him from exploring everything life had to offer. With a light heart and an open mind, he continued on his path, ready to face the challenges and embrace the opportunities the horizon had to offer him. And so, with each dawn, he committed to continue his journey toward the unknown, aware that what truly mattered was the experience of living fully, day by day. Days passed, and morning walks became a fundamental part of Marcos's routine. The soft morning light and the singing of the birds were no longer just a backdrop. They were the soundtrack of his transformation. He felt lighter, more connected to the world around him, and above all, more in tune with his dreams. During one of these walks, while reflecting on the conversation he had with Clara, the idea of transformation echoed in his mind. What had once seemed a distant concept was now within his reach. He realized that transformation did not happen all at once, but rather through small choices made each day. Every step toward the horizon was not just a physical movement, but a sign of his commitment to change. One morning, while walking through the park where he usually sat to write, he came across a group of people practicing yoga. The tranquil flow of movements and the serenity of the practitioners drew him in. He hesitated for a moment, wondering if he should join them. The idea of trying something new intrigued him, but it also sparked the fear of the unknown. Remembering Clara's words about the courage to take the first step, Marcos decided it was time to step out of his comfort zone. He approached the group and asked to participate. To his surprise, he was warmly welcomed and soon found himself immersed in a practice that brought a sense of peace and focus he had never experienced before. As he moved alongside the others, Marcos felt a new energy flowing through his body. Each breath and movement helped him release accumulated tension and connect more deeply with himself. The horizon he had envisioned began to expand even further, revealing new paths to explore. After the practice, he sat in the shade of a tree and reflected on this new experience. Yoga was not just a physical exercise. It was a way to harmonize his mind and body, allowing him to make clearer decisions. The transformation he saw was happening right before his eyes. As Marcos contemplated what he had learned, his mind began to revolve around an important decision. He wanted to share his journey with Clara, not just to thank her for her inspiring words, but also to discuss how transformation was shaping his life. He remembered how Clara had spoken about the importance of dreaming and taking small steps, and he wanted her to know how this was impacting his life. Determined, he took out his notebook and wrote a message to Clara. The intention was clear. He wanted to invite her for a walk so they could share their experiences and reflections. As soon as he pressed send, he felt a flutter in his stomach, a mix of excitement and apprehension. What would Clara say? Would she be as willing to share her journey as he was? In that moment, Marcos realized that transformation was not a solitary process. Sharing his experiences with others made everything more meaningful. He waited eagerly for a response, reflecting on how this decision could be another step toward his horizon. As he returned home, his heart raced with anticipation for what was to come. The changes he was experiencing had become an essential part of his identity. Now more than ever, he was ready to explore the new dimensions of his being and perhaps inspire others along the way. Hours passed, and Marcos lost himself in thought, anxious for Clara's reply. The sun began to set, painting the sky in orange and pink, a beautiful spectacle reflecting what was inside him. He knew that transformation was just beginning, and the decision to open his heart and share his journey was a fundamental part of this process. Finally, his phone buzzed with a notification. It was Clara. He quickly opened the message, and a smile spread across his face as he read the warm words accompanying it. Clara was excited to meet up and share her experiences. That was all Marcos needed to feel confident in his journey. The idea of walking alongside someone who inspired him was exactly what he needed to continue on his own path. With his mind full of possibilities, he prepared for the next stage of his journey, aware that each step was leading him not just to a physical horizon, but also to a state of being he was still discovering. And so, with an open heart and a curious mind, Marcos was ready to explore life in a new and exciting way. The next morning, Marcos woke up earlier than usual, enthusiasm coursing through his veins. He quickly got ready, putting on his hiking clothes and grabbing his notebook, which now carried not only his dreams but also the recent experiences that shaped his transformation. The soft morning light filtered through the curtains, reflecting his optimistic state of mind. When he arrived at the park, Clara was already there, stretching under the shade of a large tree. Her smile lit up the surroundings, and Marcos felt a wave of gratitude for having such a positive person in his life. He approached her, and Clara greeted him with a warm hug. "I'm so happy you came," she said, her enthusiasm matching Marcos's. "Me too," he replied, his heart racing with the anticipation of sharing his reflections. Together, they began to walk. The fresh morning air and the sound of leaves whispering in the wind created a perfect atmosphere for deep conversations. Marcos felt time slowing down, as if the universe were conspiring for each moment to be meaningful. "I wrote about our conversation the day we watched the sunrise," Marcos began, feeling inspired to open his heart. "You helped me see the horizon in a completely new way. I started to think about what it really means." Clara stopped to look at him, her eyes full of curiosity. "And what did you discover?" she asked, encouraging him to continue. Marcos took a deep breath, organizing his thoughts. "I realized that the horizon is not just a line that divides the known from the unknown. It is also a symbol of the opportunities that lie ahead of us, opportunities that I had not been willing to explore until now. I was trapped in the idea that there were limits, but you made me see that every step towards those limits can transform into a new possibility." Clara smiled, clearly impressed. "That's wonderful, Marcos," she exclaimed. "And how do you plan to move forward?" "Well, I want to continue exploring these new possibilities. Yesterday, during my walk, I took a yoga class. It was amazing. I never imagined that it could help me connect so much with myself. I'm thinking about committing to this practice and maybe even trying other things I've always wanted to do but never had the courage," he said, feeling more confident sharing his ideas. Clara's expression lit up. "That's exactly what it means to live fully. Life is a journey of self-discovery. Sometimes you need to open yourself up to new experiences and let them shape who you are." They continued to walk, and the conversation flowed naturally, covering dreams, fears, and hopes. Marcos felt comfortable sharing his insecurities, his doubts about the future, and what he truly desired. Every word felt liberating, as if he were shedding weights he had carried for too long. "You know, Marcos, when you talked about limits, it reminded me of a concept I learned," Clara said, her voice soft and engaging. "Limits are often self-imposed. When we allow ourselves to see beyond them, we can discover new dimensions of ourselves." Marcos nodded, absorbing every word. It was true. He had lived his life surrounded by barriers he had created himself. Now, with each conversation and each step, he felt more capable of breaking them down. "What do you think lies beyond your horizon?" Clara asked, her curiosity insatiable. Marcos looked up at the clear blue sky and reflected. The horizon seemed so vast, so full of possibilities. "I think what lies beyond my horizon is a life where I can be authentic, where I can truly connect with others in the world. A life where I no longer worry about meeting expectations that aren't mine," he replied, his voice filled with conviction. "That's beautiful, Marcos. And you know that the journey to get there starts with those small choices, right? Every step you take, every new experience you embrace, is a way to reach that horizon," Clara affirmed, looking at him with a glimmer of encouragement. "Yes, and I'm ready to take those steps," Marcos said, determination growing within him. As they continued walking, feeling the morning energy around them, Marcos realized he wasn't just walking physically, but also advancing in his journey of self-discovery. He was shedding old beliefs and embracing new perspectives. When they reached a small overlook that offered a stunning view of the park, Clara stopped and turned to him. "Look at this," she said, extending her arms toward the horizon. "See how vast and beautiful it is. This represents what lies ahead of you. It's what you're about to explore. Don't be afraid of what's beyond. Embrace it." Marcos gazed at the view, feeling emotion swell in his chest. He finally understood that the horizon was not a limit but an invitation to adventure. "Thank you, Clara, for everything. You've really helped me see beyond what I thought was possible," he said, his heart full of gratitude. Clara smiled, and in that moment, they both felt connected in a deep and meaningful way. There, under the vast illuminated sky, Marcos was ready to embrace whatever came next, knowing that the journey was just beginning. He wasn't just moving forward, he was transforming, allowing himself to discover and explore everything life had to offer. Now let's do a powerful exercise to raise your vibrations and align mind, body, and spirit with positive energies. This exercise combines breathing techniques, visualization, and gratitude. One, find a quiet place. Choose a location where you can sit or lie down comfortably without interruptions. Turn off your phone or any external distractions. 2. Deep breathing. Close your eyes and start with 3 deep breaths. Inhale slowly through your nose, filling your abdomen, and exhale through your mouth, releasing all tension. With each breath, imagine that you are inhaling pure energy and light and exhaling any stress or emotional blockage. 3. Connect with the present. Bring your attention to the present moment. Feel the weight of your body against the surface where you are sitting or lying. Feel the temperature around you. The goal is to fully bring your awareness to the now, letting go of worries about the past or future. 4. Visualize the golden light. Imagine a bright golden light beginning to appear right above your head. This light represents love, healing, and positive energy. Visualize this golden light slowly descending, enveloping your body from head to toe. Feel it penetrating every cell, purifying and energizing you. As the light flows over you, imagine it clearing away any negativity, heavy thoughts, or emotions, replacing them with sensations of peace, joy, and gratitude. 5 positive affirmations. Repeat mentally or out loud. I'm a magnet for abundance and positivity. My energy is in harmony with the universe. I radiate love, peace, and joy. I am worthy of all the good things the universe offers. Feel the truth of these words as you say them. Six, gratitude. Now, bring to mind 3 things you are deeply grateful for. It could be something simple like your breath, or something significant like a recent achievement. Feel the gratitude expanding in your chest like a warm wave. Think with a full heart. 7, energy expansion. Imagine that this golden light around you is growing, expanding beyond your body. It now begins to envelop the space you're in, expanding further to cover your city, the planet, and even the universe. Visualize your energy connecting with a universal flow, attracting good things into your life. A, concluding the exercise. When you feel completely immersed in this positive vibration, begin to bring your attention back to your body. Wiggle your fingers and toes and slowly open your eyes. Take a deep breath once more and feel this renewed energy within you. You are now aligned with a higher frequency, ready to attract what you desire and live in harmony. Whenever you need to elevate your vibrations, return to this exercise. Regular practice will amplify your positive energy even more.